All right, let's talk about someone who is just a fascinating mix of contrasts. A guy who went from stealing bases in the major leagues to trying to save souls from a pulpit. This is the incredible story of Billy Sunday.
And this quote right here, it pretty much sums up the entire man. His goal wasn't to sound smart or sophisticated. It was all about raw, direct, powerful communication that anybody, literally anybody, could get. And that philosophy, well, it would go on to change everything.
So how do you even begin to understand this guy? Well, you have to look at the two completely different lives he lived. It's really a tale of a dramatic, and I mean total, transformation.
Okay, so picture this. On one side, you've got the athlete, and we're not talking about some minor league player. Billy Sunday was a star outfielder for the Chicago White Stockings, known everywhere for his blazing speed. Then, on the other side, you have the evangelist, this fiery, almost theatrical preacher who just captivated massive crowds and became one of the most powerful religious voices in America. So the question is, how on earth do you get from one to the other?
You know, his story didn't start with fame and fortune. Far from it. He was born into poverty back in 1862. For him, baseball was the way out. And boy, did he make it. By the late 1880s, he was a celebrated pro, living the kind of life most people could only dream about.
But then, everything changed. There was this one single moment, this turning point that completely flipped his life upside down and sent him down a path that I guarantee you he never saw coming.
And get this life-altering moment, it didn't happen in some fancy church or grand cathedral. Nope, it happened on the street. While he was a famous ball player, he just happened to hear the gospel being preached at this humble little street mission. It was simple, it was direct, and for him, it changed absolutely everything.
I mean, just stop and think about that for a second. The gravity of that decision. He didn't just pick up a new hobby. He walked away from it all. The fame, the money, the entire career he had built from nothing. All of it, gone. So he could dedicate himself completely to evangelism.
But here's the kicker. You can take the man out of baseball, sure, but you can't really take the baseball out of the man. He brought all that energy, all that physicality of a professional athlete right with him onto the preacher's stage.
He basically brought the ballpark right up onto the platform with him. I mean, he didn't just stand there behind a pulpit. He would run from one side of the stage to the other, like an outfielder chasing down a fly ball.
He would literally jump up on chairs to drive a point home, using his entire body to show people how urgent his message was.
And you're not going to believe this. He would actually slide across the platform like he was stealing home. It was shocking, it was theatrical, and you can be sure nobody ever forgot it.
Now you can imagine, some people were just appalled by this. It wasn't proper, It lacked dignity. But Sunday's comeback was just perfect. He basically said that if your dignity is getting in the way of a life-for-death message, then maybe your dignity is the problem. For him, urgency was way more important.
Okay, so we've talked about the style, the theatrics. But what was he actually saying? What was the core message that was fueling all of this incredible passion?
For him, it all boiled down to one core idea, captured in this one verse, Romans 1:16. For I am not ashamed of the gospel. That was his foundation. He wasn't embarrassed by his message, and he wasn't afraid to shout it from the rooftops to anyone who would listen. So, at the end of the day, his message was incredibly straightforward. He preached to the rich and the poor, in giant stadiums and in dusty tents. He truly believed this message had the power to save anybody, and his call to action was always the same, simple thing: repent and be saved. That's it, no dictionary needed.
And the results? I mean, what happened when he took this no-holds-barred, high-energy approach to the masses? Well, the impact was just staggering. It's estimated that over 1 million people made a decision for faith during his campaigns. They would literally walk down what he called the sawdust trail at the end of his sermons. 1 million people.
All right, so looking back at this incredible life, what's the takeaway for us today? What are the lessons we can pull from his playbook that still hit home?
Well, it really boils down to 3 big ideas. First, don't water down the message. He believed it had power on its own, so he preached it straight, no chaser. Second, put your whole heart into it. For Sunday, winning souls wasn't about just giving people information. It was about passion. And third, don't wait for the right moment. Act with urgency.
And that really leaves us with a question, doesn't it? I mean, today we're all about polished, slick, perfectly curated presentations. Billy Sunday was the total opposite of that. He was raw, he was messy, he was loud, and he was undeniably passionate. It really makes you wonder,
In our quest for polish, what's the power we might have lost from that kind of raw, unfiltered passion?